What is going on, guys? It is October 15th, and this is LSU Recruiting HQ. I'm your host, Michael, and we have so much to cover this episode, man. LSU gets a tremendous dub this weekend against an arch rival in Auburn. You can never take these games for granted. It really, honestly, it felt nice to not have to stress all game. There was a little period in the first half where I thought, maybe they're gonna let them hang around, but they put that foot on the gas pedal and kind of took over. It really made it a lot easier on the heart and mind to watch a football game for once, instead of me wanting to jump off a bridge every Saturday. So that was a nice change of pace from LSU for sure. The defense was, what it was. It's hard to judge because we've seen this team play two bad defenses, and look great, right? And we've seen this team play two great offenses and look terrible, right? So I don't know. It's the jury's still out. I do think they're getting better. There's no doubt in my mind they're getting better. They've done some things and changed things that are helping them get better, and that is abundantly clear throughout. But the thing with this game, all right, the thing that I want to talk about most is the recruiting buzz for this weekend. Guys, if you guys aren't in the recruiting world and if you guys are just watching the show for the first time, or maybe don't follow me on any other social medias, or follow guys like, Shay at On3 or Billy and Body, people like that who cover recruiting, and you're kind of not in the loop, this weekend was massive for LSU in recruiting. You might not see guys, committing from the weekend, but we've already had several guys that have reached out and said that they're reopening their options, right? We had the kid from Georgia Tech, CJ Jackson, who is a top 70 player, edge rusher out of the state of Georgia, was formerly committed to Georgia Tech. He announced today, if you're watching this on Sunday, he announced that he is committed to LSU now, and that brought LSU from number 9 all the way up to number 6 in the On3 team composite rankings, and that number is just going to keep climbing because, guys, the buzz we're hearing out of this weekend, we had Bryce Underwood, number 1 quarterback. You had guys like DeCorian Moore on campus. You had Harlem Berry on campus this weekend. These are number 1 players in their respective positions for the class of 2025, all on the offensive side of the ball, that watched you go out there and just run it up. This offense that Jaden Daniels and Mike Denbrock and Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly and all that are running right now, it's unstoppable. It's been proven game in and game out, and it's just light years ahead of where it was at this point last year, right? You look at this game last year, Jaden Daniels threw for 80 yards. Yes, you heard that right. 80, as in 80, as in under 100 yards in the Auburn game last year at Auburn. And LSU was barely able to squeak by and win that one. And then tonight he goes 20 for 27 for 350 and 4 touchdowns. It's becoming a normal thing for him just to have 350 yards, 80% completion percentage, and 4+ touchdowns. And that's not even counting his rushing yards. He had 93 on the ground as well. This guy is a bona fide stud, and I couldn't be more proud because it was hard, right? It was hard to watch at times. There was at times last year where I doubted things, right? But I stuck with it, right? I trusted that Jay Daniels had shown me at Arizona State what he was capable of, right? And with a little fine-tuning and the talent that LSU had at receiver and the offensive line and the running backs, with Logan Diggs coming in and being a stud, getting you 100 yards, 150 yards a game every single time he goes out there. With all that factored in, I thought that there was no way that Jaden couldn't take a step forward from what he was last year, right? And I wanted to see him expand the field and get the ball down the field, get the ball to the playmakers, man. Like, get it out your hands. Don't just take off and run every time you get into a little trouble. Do what you need to do to move the ball, but still you have to trust your guys that are going to make plays. And boy, has he done that times a million. There was people at the beginning of the season that told me Jane Daniels shouldn't be the starting quarterback. And now those same people, the people that couldn't stand the fact that Jane Daniels was going to be the starting quarterback, are now posting, I want him to end the Heisman finalists and all this. He's the best quarterback in the country. And it is crazy the 180 that this fan base has taken with their opinions on Jane Daniels, including mine, because I'm going to look at you guys straight. I saw at the end of last year some progressive things that I thought the offense as a whole was getting better, but I couldn't reassure you that it was going to be like that this year, and that they were going to be just as good as they were those last couple games of the season. Jane Daniels was tremendous at the end of the last year. After the Arkansas game, you go to A&M game, you go to the Georgia game. Before he got hurt, he was doing really good. And then obviously the bowl game is kind of like a what if because of all the people missing from the Purdue lineup. But going into this year, I felt good about what Jaden and this offense could do. But I never in my lifetime imagined something to what we're seeing right now. Like, I don't think people realize how special like this offense is. Like, this is 2019. Like it is real. Like they had a stat where they eclipsed, what was it, 500 yards in like 5 straight games or something like that. And the 2019 team never even did that. So that's kind of crazy, right? It might have been 400 yards. I'm not 100% sure if it was 400 or 500. But just think about where this team and where this offense has come from. Watching that Arkansas game last year where it was just like, I mean, it was like nails on a chalkboard watching them run that offense. And then what it is now. And occasionally, you know, some of the flaws that Jane Daniels has pops up. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't, you know, think about it and harp on it. He moves on to the next play and says, my guys are better than your guys. They're going to win their one-on-ones. I'm going to throw them the football. And it has just been a tremendous effort from the LSU offense. And recruits are seeing that. You guys heard me right. The number one quarterback, the number one running back, and the number one wide receiver, which you already have committed, were all on campus this weekend. You're thinking about an historic, and I am not over-exaggerating when I say that the 2025 recruiting class has the chance, if you land those 3 guys, one of them which is a player in your state at Harlem Berry, from right there in Metairie in New Orleans, you have the chance to land the number 1, number 2, and number 3 offensive players in the country. At the number 1 players at their positions in the country. And you don't think people are going to follow? You don't think every offensive lineman is like, ah, dang, I want to go play with Bryce Underwood. I want to go play with DeCorian Moore and Harlem Berry, and have a chance to go win a championship? Because that's what those guys can do. That's how good they are. But that's just getting started on what this weekend was for LSU. You had guys from all over the country this weekend. I believe the number Shea Dixon put out was 15 of the top 150 players in their respective classes were on campus this weekend, which is amazing. First of all, you had a guy like Drelon Moore or Miller at Texas A&M commit. He's on Flip Watch. We got guys that, you know, are off the radar. You had Gabriel Rutherford again on campus again, Texas A&M commit. You had guys like Caden Durham out there, who is probably one of the most important recruits in this class because he is that guy who has all the connections, right? He has the Texas background. And he's very relatable. A lot of the recruits get along with him and like him. And he is like one of the cornerstones of this class just because of the recruiting he does himself. I'm always a big believer that the players that you have on your committed class are your biggest recruiters. Your coaches can do all this, but if they don't want to go play with certain people and they don't like the people that they're in the class with, they're not coming. You know, they're going to go play with people that they want to play with. And so that's a huge thing. And LSU has that going for them. You got guys like Dylan Moses' little brother, Keelan Moses. who could be committing any day now. LSU is a strong lean there too. He was in Baton Rouge on Saturday. It's them in Florida right now. If I had to put my money on it, I put my money on the hometown Tigers. And that's a guy you need, because that's another guy in the 2025 class who could be your cornerstone of the class and who can start recruiting these guys and tell them, hey, come on, we can build something special here. And that's exactly what Brian Kelly is trying to do. He's trying to get these kids on board early, so they can help him recruit. And you get guys like DeCorian Moore and Keelan Moses in this class of 2025, along with all the people you already have, and you finish 2024 as strong as you're going to probably finish 2024 with, things are going to be happening, and they're going to be some special things and some great athletes coming along this couple of next cycles. Like, it is unreal. But getting back to the game, it's we're kind of in that part of the season, right? LSU has Army coming up, then the bye week, and then Bama. This team controls their own destiny, guys. Like, I hate to say it because it's so true and everybody says it, but this is so much like last year. It's so crazy how unique and ununique it is at the same time, right? Because you lose to Florida State like you did last year. You lose a game in embarrassing fashion like you did last year to give you your second loss early in the season. The fan base kind of gives up on you. You get a big win, right? What was the game after Tennessee? Was it Florida? I think it was a Florida game last year, and then you have the Missouri game this year where you go on the road, you get a huge win, the energy's back in the fan base, you come home, you beat up on some sorry-ass teams, and then you go play Bama, and let's see what happens. Because I got to break it to you guys. If there's any Ole Miss fans out there watching, hats off to you. You beat us. It is what it is at this point. Y'all ain't winning out. All right, you're still Ole Miss. You're always going to be Ole Miss. You ain't never winning the West anytime soon. All right, you had like 20 wins a couple years ago and still didn't win the West. So they got to play Georgia. They still got to play A&M. They're probably going to lose. They just got to lose one game, and then you control your own destiny. You beat Bama, you beat A&M, and you're in. And Florida, of course. Florida, a very sneaky team on the rise. Big win this weekend at South Carolina. I want to give a shout out to all my Gamecock fans out there that are super sad this morning. If you're still watching this point at the video, it is Cocktober, but not a good start to Cocktober for the fellow Gamecock fans. But for LSU, like I said, building off of this win, getting better every week, which I think they are, is super important. The defensive line looks so much better. The secondary looks a little bit better. They're in position. They're making more plays, which I didn't see. They were in position. They just weren't making the plays. Last night they made plays. Like, you got to hear me out when I say this, right? Like, this team, these guys like Zy Alexander, Denver Harris, Sage Ryan, like, when they go up against Luther Burden, they're not winning their one-on-ones. Nobody is. When they go up against guys like Keon Coleman, they're not winning. I'm not asking you to win your one-on-ones against them. I'm asking you to push them down or do something, to get them off the rhythm. But them sorry-ass receivers they got at Auburn and at Mississippi State and at wherever, you play, I need you to clamp that shit up. Like, you can't be giving up 100 and 150 yards to them sorry-ass receivers that they got. All right, you give up 100 yards to Keon Coleman, all right. You give up 100 yards to Luther Burden, all right. It is what it is. They're getting 100 yards on everybody. All right? Just be there, make the tackle, and do what you got to do. But, I'm not asking you to be Derek Stingley in 2019. I'm not asking you to go clamp up the best receivers and make sure that one side of the field is shut down and, we ain't no. I just need you to be decent. Because my team's going to score 45 and 50 every game. I just need you to be decent. And I think they're getting to that point. We make fun of the defense all the time, and those guys are trying just as hard as the guys on the offense are trying, right? But it just comes down to execution. I think Matt House is a great defensive coordinator. I was never on the bandwagon to get rid of him, but I was also on the bandwagon where it's like you can't recover from what's transpiring here too. Like, people are going to ask questions. They're going to shit can you if this continues. Well, hopefully, we're starting to see a trend where that's not continuing. The second half of the Missouri game, they outscored them 32-14, right? Big stops in that second half, all right, including turnovers, which they hadn't been doing, which when you're a